That feeling of relief, that's something I often use with intuition. Even if someone is considering something, going, when you consider this course rather than that one, how do you feel? And when people say, relieved, yes, that's one of the ways our intuition is saying, whew, this feels good. That's remarkable.
Cue music. Places, everybody, places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and it's my honor and pleasure to be with you here on another brand new episode. And I'm really excited about this episode because I reached out to our dear friend and returning guest. She's one of our superstar guests, Bev Martin, because I'll tell you what, I've had a couple of crazy dreams lately, and I felt like my intuition was trying to talk to me in those. And they turned out to be pretty close, pretty spot on. I'll tell Bev and you about those in a little bit. But I reached out to Bev because I thought, how does our intuition talk to us? That was my question. Is this just a crazy, weird dream, bad B-movie dream, whatever? Or was it really trying to say something to me? And let me introduce Bev if you don't know her yet. And you can always find out all her other episodes over at understandingautoimmune.com. And I'm going to read her bio because I want to get it right for you guys. Bev Martin, she is a natural and trained intuitive, a certified professional coach, a member of ICF International Coaches, a master practitioner of NLP and health, and a certified facilitator of clean language and symbolic modeling, and a certified hypnotherapist. And she is amazing. She is so awesome about understanding the unspoken, the unseen, and what does it all mean. So, Bev, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sharon. It's always fun. I learn a lot in our conversations, so thank you.
Oh, so do I. And as I mentioned to you, when I coerced you, I didn't have to coerce her guys. She's always up for some fun. I wanted to know, from your point of view, Bev, how does our intuition talk to us?
In so many ways. Our intuition is running all the time. And when we stop and listen, which I advocate for, actually just stopping and listening and saying, like, what is it that I know? Then intuition, we have a relationship with intuition and it works well. Sometimes when we're busy having a busy life and we forget to do that, intuition has to get louder. It's regrettable when that happens because intuition getting louder sometimes is things happening to stop us, to get our attention, to make us slow down. Or it's finally, something like really attention getting, instead of listening to it at a whisper, now it has to become a shout. And intuition is there all the time. We know what we know. It's a thread running through. And we just stop, listen in. What is it that I know? Or paying attention to what's happening when I think about this. My gut got tight. What's that about? Intuition is working all the time, and it's a smart idea to listen.
So it can be something besides that small voice in your head saying something that you're like, what?
Yes. Oh, yes. And can be synchronicities. And at night, so often a dream can also be a way of our intuition reaching us because we're in the best position. That chatterbox, logical mind that thinks it's the boss of everything, it's sleeping. So the intuition says, okay, finally, here's something I think you could know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've had some wild dreams lately that were pretty intense that had me wondering. Now, I'm going to share one. I think Bev knows this story. It was a while ago. I had a dream and it was very vivid. And I've never had this happen before. It was like both of my eyes were arguing with each other. And I was the observer of my eyeballs arguing. It was very strange. I tell you guys, give me an idea. It was. This concept of the right eye was mad at the left eye, and it kept saying, you should have seen it coming. You should have seen it coming. I woke up with a start, one of those times where you're like, oh, I wake up with a start, and you're like, wow, that was interesting. I felt relieved afterwards for some reason. It was just like, okay, I guess that needed to be said, whatever that was.
Wow. Amazing. And I think that feeling of relief, that's something I often use with intuition. Even when, if someone is considering something, going, when you consider this course rather than that one, how do you feel? And when people say relieved, it's yes, that's one of the ways our intuition is saying, whew, this feels good. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it was strange. My eye doctor confirmed there had been a change to my eyesight afterwards,
Wow.
which thought was rather strange. And I did tell the eye doctor the story, and she says, that's one of the weirder things I've heard, but I can't say that it didn't change your eyes because here's the proof.
Wow. I love it. Amazing. Dreams are remarkable as a way of getting our attention. We can solve a problem in a dream. Apparently, the person who invented the sewing machine was trying to figure out, that everything else figured out. This was whenever in history, a long time ago, and was trying to figure out how the needle worked, because most needles, the part that you thread was at the top and the pointy end was at the bottom. And this was a real challenge to how to automate a needle like that. And apparently, if I think hard, I'll remember the name of the inventor, had a dream in which he was surrounded by villagers who were going to spear him. And he noticed that the spears that they had, the hole was at the bottom. And it was like, bingo, solved the problem of inventing the sewing machine. So often when our conscious mind is like noodling on something in the peacefulness of the dream state, when we're not thinking too hard, but we're actually in a different state, these ideas come. My husband had a dream solve a problem that he didn't even know he had. So quite some years ago, we were living in this house. He gets up in the morning and he says, I've just got to go and look in the garbage. I'm like, okay. He goes and digs in the garbage, lettuce leaves, banana peels, not a fun little dig. There's his wallet. He had a dream that said, you threw away your wallet. It's in the garbage. He didn't even know it was missing. And the dream said, go get it. Like, how does that work?
I don't know. Is that intuition telling us that you threw away your wallet?
I think it's the unconscious mind. Sure. So what I love about the fact that he wasn't thinking, where did I put it? He was not involved at all. That deeper sense of intuition and the unconscious mind that must have been there when he accidentally tossed it in, we're just like replaying that to him, fortunately, before the big truck came and took the garbage away.
I just have a quick question, though. I know I've had NLP training too, so I just want your insights on this. I remember vaguely, they were talking about how our eyes see it all and our brain gathers all that data, but I'm butchering this, but basically we only filter out what we're using right then and there. So if you needed to remember all the license plates in front of you while you're driving or something, I guess that data's there, but it's a matter of data recall.
It's too much information, yes. And yet it's there. So in hypnosis, I think the same thing happens where, say, we've seen in the crime dramas, when you do need to recall the name of the license plate, apparently it is possible for someone in deep hypnosis to go through those steps and recall the bits that the logical mind has filtered out as unnecessary. We're remarkable human beings. We really are remarkable. And so I think the dream state is a friendly place in which the unconscious mind can give us a nudge, can give us insight about something or heads up about something, or even a dress rehearsal. There's been stories about people when they come to an event in the real life going, oh, I remember this. This is what I did in my dream. And it turned out well. So it's fascinating.
It's beyond fascinating too, because I guess, how do we filter out? I know we're talking about intuition too, but I love this dream idea. Maybe they're all useful, but the scary, yucky dreams versus the playful, whatever dreams versus the ones that are useful. Obviously, the wallet one was pretty intense.
Very practical. Yes. Yeah.
I've had practical dreams too. I'm curious, do we have to sit there and mull over the ones where, whoa, I don't know if that was one of a scary roller coaster ride. Maybe I don't want to relive that one or something.
Probably not. Because sometimes my understanding is, and I'm not an expert in how the mechanics of the brain, but sometimes it's a way to like discharge energy that was built up during the day. And I think dreams use metaphor, and I love metaphor. A dream can like discharge energy. Say we really did want to punch someone in the face, right? We don't have to actually do it if in our dream we get to do it, or we get to see it being done and have, phew, I'm happy to have had that happen, even though no one got harmed in the course of this thing. So I think it's just, it's energy that wants to go in a certain direction. It uses metaphor to get our attention. We could be curious about the metaphor. I wonder what that means. What else could it mean? And I'm careful not to say it has a meaning as if it were to portend anything, even though a dream can often give us a hint of a future event. We don't want to be like, what does the dream mean? But really, what does it mean to me? There are people who do specialize in helping someone unpack a dream. And they're very careful also not to say your dream means, but to say, if it were my dream, I would wonder about that fox. Or so it's almost like using symbolic modeling, metaphor work to unpack a dream.
I find this fascinating because I've told the story numerous times on the show about I kept going mulling over, should I fire this doctor or not? Should I fire this doctor or not? And then it was just this little zap. I just find this fascinating that listening to ourselves, trusting
Yeah,
ourselves, being safe within ourselves has been critically important to my healing and my understanding of all
absolutely.
sorts of things. Is that even like intuition poking us?
I believe so. Because it's a way that it's getting our attention in some way. It's a friendly place because it's just a dream, but we're paying attention to something in a way that maybe we couldn't attend to in our regular working day. Something is becoming conscious that was so deeply unconscious we couldn't see it. So it's remarkable. And so paying attention to dreams in the same way as we would to any kind of intuitive events is to get curious, to say, what if I've had 6 dreams in a row in the last several nights? Was there a theme? Or how come every dream is talking about? You get curious about if your dreams were wanting to get your attention, what is it they'd like me to know? And you can ask them in the same way, even if the dreams are unclear to you, but you feel like something's trying to get through to you, you can interview your intuition or your unconscious by asking, what is it that you'd like to have me know? Of course, by them, I would ask spirit guides and teachers, but it's the same idea. I believe there's a message for me somewhere and I'm battling to get it. What is it that something greater than me would like to have me know? What would I like to have myself know? Many years ago, there was a time when my own brain was in great fear. I was in lack consciousness and very concerned, and I was really looking for a rescue. And my rescuer was on their way. And the night before the rescue, my dream showed me what in South Africa we would call a ladder in your stocking, but here we call it a run.
Mm.
And it showed me a run. And it just, in the dream, I knew, run from, this is not a rescue, run. In the dream, I was trying to mail letters and all sorts of shenanigans was happening with that. But that whole thing was run. So even though here came the rescue, I knew to say no. And thank God I did. So that was just from a run. And my sense is there must be a part of us that already has that knowing intuitively that the dream comes and confirms. I think it's seldom that something completely out of the blue would come in a dream unless some part of us was open to it or had considered it as an option.
Sometimes my dreams, though, are I'm not clear what they're talking about all the times. And I like the idea that you said, interview the dream. They'll come in such a metaphor. Like I'm
Right.
thinking about the idea of run. Now, you and I are obviously, I know you're younger than me, but same age where there were things such as stockings. The younger people, I don't know if my granddaughter would even know what they were, nor
Right.
understand the word run.
Yeah, so it will be subjective. In the same way, I feel like your intuition talks to you in your language. It would be that way for you. Or an image in a dream that would have a certain meaning from an experience. At pivotal times in my life, I noticed a theme in the dreams. And these dreams might have been 5, 7 years apart. But I thought, So do we have time? Shall I
Sure.
go into it?
Yeah.
So I noticed that whenever anything big was happening in my life, I dreamed of big animals. When I was changing my life considerably, making a huge change, my dream was of trying to get a baby elephant across a busy main street. And I was battling with this Ellie, and he was having a ball. And so, like, significant dream. And then all went well, but I was aware of, okay, this is the enormity of the change you're making. It helped a lot to have the dream. And then years later, almost forgetting about the elephant dream, when I moved to the United States and I wasn't allowed to work until I got my green card, I dreamed of beached whales. However, they were colorful, smiling, like they'd been painted by a child. And so for me, it was like, okay, so this feeling of being beached, but it's okay, right? The whales are happy. They're like lying on the beach going, this is fine. So it was like interesting to me. And then not that long after, I dreamed of an orca. And I had met my now husband, but he was my boyfriend at the time. I dreamed of an orca jumping out of the waves and spinning and splashing down. And in the dream, my family and Jim's family were watching this amazing spectacle and just enjoying it. And I woke up, I thought, oh, we're gonna have the
He's the
wedding.
one.
It's the wedding, and he's the one. And both of our families. So another big animal. So I watch out for any sizable animals in my dream and I pay extra attention. So you can look for a theme. You can look for the feeling you have when you wake up. Now, sometimes a yucky dream, you wake up with a yucky feeling.
Yes, I've had those before. What the heck?
What was that? Did I have a cheeseburger before I went to bed? And some of those factors could come into play. But I would say if you are left feeling uncomfortable or unsettled, sit with your intuition and interview it. So is there something I could know, something I could take away from that, or was that just a bad night?
Wow, that's fascinating to me. How we're supposed to just know, and they can come in so many different ways. I love that you saw the pattern of the big animals being seems to be tied to big change or big events or big decisions in your life. Wow, that's fascinating. I am fascinated about all of this. We need to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Bev some more just about how do we know our intuition is trying to talk to us. And I love this idea that dreams too, because I lately have been having some pretty amazing ones myself. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and of course, understandingautoimmune.com, where you can find over 480 plus episodes of the show. Today is really about, can our intuition talk to us, was my main topic. And I wanted to know also about, can our intuition come through dreams? Because I've had some pretty crazy dreams lately. And I was just fascinated by all of this. So let me reintroduce Bev really quickly. Bev Martin, she's a natural and trained intuitive, a certified professional coach, a member of the ICF coaching professionals, as well as a master practitioner of NLP and a certified facilitator of clean language and symbolic modeling, and a certified hypnotherapist. And Bev, this has just been awesome and fascinating about dreams and intuition. I've been working a lot lately on my autonomic nervous system, and we've had Sarah Payton on and other experts, and some of those things are all about our autonomic nervous system. And I have found how much that plays in wellness and well-being. And if that is dysregulated for any reason, things might not be going according to plan. And one of the things that I've been working on, and I'll say the external world here, the vivid world, whatever we want to call it, is letting my intuition know, letting myself know, letting my autonomic nervous system know that it's safe. Where I'm now is safe, where I used to be perhaps wasn't, or at least my autonomic nervous system didn't feel safe there. And really encouraging my autonomic nervous system to find ways to make it sure that it feels safe, to then know that it's safe. For me right now, I'm working on this feeling so my autonomic nervous system knows it's safe, that I'm not there anymore, I'm here. One of the things about the intuition that I wanted to bring up was little ways that it talks to me. And yes, we'll get back to dreams too. I know we're wandering all over, but I love Bev. She runs down rabbit holes with me. I was driving down a road, and this road has 4 lanes, but the outside 2 lanes are super narrow. At least for me, I just feel like I'm going to wipe out somebody's side mirror when I drive this road. I kept hearing my intuition said, get in the other lane, get in the other lane. And I kept arguing, going, I don't want to be, I hate that lane. I don't want to be in that lane. And bam, somebody for the 5th car behind just piled into all of us and shoved us up into each other. And I was thinking that was so pronounced, so hello. And yet I argued with it. It's lesson learned. I don't argue when I hear that voice anymore. But obviously my intuition was talking to me there. But I still find that fascinating how I guess I don't know the mechanics of it.
Over time, when you have had a few experiences like that, you'll get to know how your intuition lets you sort of calmly get in the other lane. And over time, to practice knowing the difference between hearing that and worrying, because our own brain can go, oh, I wonder if I should get in the other lane. Oh, I don't like this hill. But we start to see, okay, there's a difference between me ruminating and that calm, clear voice saying, get in the other lane. And I also believe that we shouldn't just obey every voice our intuition says. We still get to say whatever, but results may vary. It's a relationship rather than the boss of you. But I know of a client who told me that she had been somewhere in the United States in a big post office, standing in a line, and her intuition said, go to the bathroom. She said, I don't need to go. Go to the bathroom. But why would I go to the bathroom? Lose my... She went to the bathroom and shots rang out.
Oh
It
my
was,
gosh.
everyone was actually okay and all was all right. But then she was like, oh, thank you. That's why I was safely in the bathroom. So I think the more you listen to it, the more you know when it's like a mother and a child. Okay, that voice means business. Let's not debate. Let's just do it.
It's funny you say that because that voice saying get in the other lane, I still recognize that voice when I hear
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And I up until that time I probably would have not paid attention to it, but after the accident and now when I've heard that voice again, it's like your mom saying your full name, like your middle name.
Yes. You come here right now. Is oh, okay, that's that voice. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That makes
One,
sense to me.
one way to think about it too, it's a relationship between you, your higher self, your whole purpose for being. Your intuition is like your GPS guiding your life. It doesn't know where you want to go. You say where you want to go, and it says, oh, I'll help you get there. Let's go here. Let's go there. Whoop. Don't marry that man. Come over here. So it works that way. And so, in the relationship with your intuition, have conversations and ask questions, but don't ask your intuition to do your work for you. In other words, don't ask for answers like it's Siri or Google. Hey, intuition, how about no?
I love
You
that.
have converse with your intuition and you ask for insight. Help me understand more about such. What can I know about this that could be helpful? As long as you know that the buck stops with you as decision maker. So I don't want to hear from anyone, certainly anyone I have taught how to use their intuition. I don't want to ever hear anyone say, my intuition said, no. You have a relationship, you listen to your intuition, and then you decide what to do with it, right? That's discernment. So we ask for insight. We say thank you for what it tells us. We might need, when I think of a quest, when we're on a quest, we want to go somewhere, like our GPS. We put in the GPS, I want to go here. Please help me along the way. Sometimes people will say to me, I don't hear anything from my intuition. What are you working on? What are you learning, or where are you growing? They're like, I'm waiting for my intuition to tell me. So that's like saying to the GPS, I'm just going to park. You tell me where we're going. Doesn't work like that. So this is what I would call power keeping in the relationship with your intuition. And the more that you keep your own power and engage in the relationship, your intuition will often be much more willing to communicate with you. If we just said, whatever you tell me, I'm going to do, it's not safe. It's not safe. We wouldn't do that with a person. I often tell this sort of silly story when I teach intuition about discernment, which is about a woman who was wanting to eat healthily and be well. and she'd done really very well. She was only eating like really good, lively fruits and vegetables. And what she did in discipline was she went down a different street than the bakery that she used to go to for donuts. And this was part of her maintaining her health and well-being, doing these different habits. But then one day, she accidentally found herself on that street right near that bakery. And she said, God must want me to have some donuts. And she said, God, if you want me to have some donuts, open a parking place right nearby. And do you know, the 33rd time she went around the block, there was a parking place. So I'm being very rude, but that's discernment is like the difference between, oh, that must be meant to be compared to my intuition is guiding me in this direction, but I still have the steering wheel.
Yeah, I love that because our last chat was about good enough thinking, where
Yeah.
people, especially in the terms of wellness, I've had lots of very interesting conversations with people in different stages of healing from autoimmune. And sometimes they get to this plateau where they don't have all their health back or whatever. They're dealing with numerous things, like juggling many types of things. An outsider can go, whoa, it could be better. There's all sorts of interventions possibly, but they're stuck in this good enough thinking. And that reminded me of the GPS kind of going, GPS, tell me where we're going today kind of idea, where you can get to this place in your mind. Well, it's certainly not like it was. My health, my healing, my whatever, this is good enough. I'll hang out here. But I always like to ask myself the question. This isn't my intuition. I ask myself, maybe, I don't know. Are they different? I don't know. Anyway, I ask myself, seriously, at this place in your healing, you're still giving up an awful lot. And you haven't even tried to see if you can get there.
Can I be willing to ask for more? Oftentimes we're afraid of being disappointed, but that sense of where would I really like to go? And then pay attention to the signs along the way. Does my car naturally slow down here? Is something telling me to change lanes? We pay attention in that way.
What's fascinating to me that I'm wondering about, though, when we get to that place of that good enough, this is good enough thinking. I've had people say, I just want my old life back. And I've always wondered, what is it? It's sometimes trying to tell us maybe your old life. I don't understand that concept of my old life. I really think of all the things I've done since the diagnosis that would not have happened, and they were all good things. Yeah, the diagnosis sucks, okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat that part. But yeah, it was a direct turn. I quit going one way and took a very decisive turn. But when somebody says you want your old life back, I'm like, no, not really. I wouldn't have met all the amazing people I've met. I wouldn't be doing the show. It's just amazing to me.
Right.
And want to encourage people to not get stuck in that good enough thinking. And that's what your comment about the GPS and okay, GPS, take me somewhere, got me thinking about.
So I love to connect questions with quest because you can interview your intuition. You can ask questions for insight, as we've said, not necessarily answers, because you're the boss of you, but you can ask questions like, okay, so this situation, what can I learn from this? Does this help me to be more of who I am? Or how can I be sure I am myself, given this situation, which would tempt me to perhaps be or feel something differently? So we get to continue to engage with the intuition. And so think of it as intuition. It's a teacher inside of us. It's our own inner teacher. And so we can ask questions to say, what can I know about this? Or I'm considering this as a response. Do I feel like, whew, relief? Yep, that's right. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it feels right. So our bodies are continually letting us know when we're in alignment with intuition. And I make my living from working with intuition. I've made my life's work. Do I always get it right? No. No. And there I would say either asking the wrong question or being fixed on the answer or the insight we think we ought to have. So joke's on me. So here I am, a person who's very intuitive. I speak with people who are on the other side. My sensitivity is part of my work. I didn't know I was pregnant.
Interestingly, I did. Not you, but when my first pregnancy, I knew within about 24, 48 hours. I didn't know I was pregnant though. I knew something was different.
Something was up,
Yeah,
right?
something changed.
And see how your sensitivity, you paid attention. You're like, what is this?
Yeah, but I was so young and naive, I didn't realize what that meant
But
until
you knew
a month.
something was going on.
Oh yeah, I
Right?
knew something was going on. And of course, in the course of a few weeks, oh, that's what that meant.
Yes. And that often is the case with intuition, is you'll have a certain feeling. If your logical mind tries to get in there and make it logic, often that makes a mess of it. But afterwards, we'll be like, oh, that's what that was about. Or so we can have rear view, more accuracy in hindsight, but that's also useful. So then the next time you have that sort of feeling, you go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? You ask a question of it. So, like for me in that instance, I kept justifying. We'd flown to South Africa. I kept thinking, man, I feel terrible. I've never had jet lag like this before. Had I asked, is this jet lag? No, I kept going. I kept justifying it. And then it was time to take malaria tablets to go into an area to go to look for wildlife. And we had the tablets on the table, and my body was like, nope, you're not taking that. And finally I said, oh, am I pregnant? Duh. Just a reassurance to everyone who's using your intuition. It's not completely foolproof, especially if the logical mind wants to be smart. But yeah, so even that can happen. But a question helps us on a quest. A question like, is this for my highest good? Does this help me be more of who I am? Is there anything else I can understand in this dynamic? Very open questions that help you to gain insight. Your intuition is only too happy to assist.
Now I want to tie this full circle and go back to dreams for a second. So can you ask the question like right before bed?
Yes.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe you won't dream about it then. Maybe it's a week later, or maybe you never dream about it. But
Yes.
can you ask a
Yes.
question before bed when things are like quiet and you can really focus?
Yep. You can say, in my rest, help me to gain insight about such and such. Help me understand, da, da, da. Give me some awareness that will, for the highest good. You absolutely can. It's like an intention. And then have fun with and be open to all the ways that your dream can meet you where your intention is.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. We're amazing human beings. And this engagement, this connection, asking a question in order to understand more fully or to be enlightened or to be informed. If we think of life as a school and we're asked questions in order to learn, there's all the kind of support for that.
Mm. And speaking of school, the one thing I wish I had done, because as I'd mentioned to you, I recently had 3 very vivid dreams. And one of them I remember as if it was like in process now. The other one, there's some vague references. And the third, when I woke up, I was like, wow, I'll never forget that. I promptly did. So is there benefit to writing some of these down where you're like, wow, that was
Yes.
really more vivid than my usual dream, or that was really
Yes.
that was different than my usual dream?
Make notes and ideally make notes before you get up so that you're still mostly in that state. Some people who study dreams say that once you get up, the dream falls out of your feet. You change your state. So even have either a voice recorder where you just tell it into there or quickly jot down some things. Or if you have someone who's a good dream listener, in other words, they just listen, tell your whole dream because you'll hear yourself tell it and you'll hear yourself say, oh, this detail or that detail. But writing is excellent because you can always go back to it.
So funny you say that. About 4 months before my first grandchild was born, I had a very vivid dream, very vivid. It was like a whole children's book in my head. And so much so that about 2 a.m. I popped out of bed and Bev, I kid you not, I went and looked up the URL because the name of the book was in my head. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters. And
Love
Pinky's
it.
become a thing. We're writing a second book now. And it's so funny what happened, guys, is I wrote down the story in my head. I wrote it all down after the .com was available. I don't know. That's things that I'm thinking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have done that. But anyway, I guess I wanted to look it up because I'm thinking, oh, that was really a great story, thinking that I had unconsciously seen it somewhere or something.
Wow.
But what was fascinating to me was the whole story was in my head, but then actually putting it into play was not as easy as it sounded in my head. It took 4 years for the book to come to life.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about that is in our own dreams, and we come up with these things. Like I said, Pinky Chenille in my head, and what I wrote down was a great story, but it was not a great children's book. And so that's fascinating to me how, like, the idea was good, the base was
Yes.
good, but it
Yes.
needed all this extra fluff and work.
Yes. And bringing it into the world into a certain way. Well, I
Yeah,
think there are people, like a lot of musicians will say they'll wake up with a tune and get up and write it down or capture it in some way. So I love that not only did you capture your Pinky Chenille, here she is out in the world, came to you in a dream. Wow.
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. What was interesting is I didn't even know that I was having a granddaughter. And in the story, there was a little sidekick, a little girl sidekick to the story.
Wow.
And that was so fascinating to me. But like I said, the dream was all there. It was very clear, at least I thought it was, but actually to bring it into reality was a whole different ride that I hadn't expected. A
Yes.
lot of things, a lot of twists and turns that weren't really clear.
Amazing. Yeah, you still get to navigate it, but I love how it arrived to you. I'm thinking of this idea of what if a dream, could we miss its meaning? And I was noodling on that and then thinking about, firstly, how specific a dream is to our own lexicon, which is the same way spirit guides talk to us. Give us a symbol that has meaning to us that somebody else might not. It'll be in your own language, typically. But even if a dream metaphor is not clearly spelling out the thing, if you're in a state of openness to say, boy, that was a weird dream. Is there anything more I can understand or know from that? Is there something I'm missing? Your intuition will help you fill in the blanks. And the reason I'm thinking of that is years ago when I was teaching intuition in real life in a hotel space, as we used to do before Zoom, I used to have a pile of photographs and we would play this game mostly just to loosen up what people thought about metaphor. And the whole idea was just to have some fun. And someone would take a photograph and say, "Ooh, the message of this card." And maybe it was sea anemones. And the person would just make up a meaning for the card and we'd all go, "Ooh." It was fun, part of loosening up our creativity, imagination, and intuition. And on one of the classes, there was a woman, and the picture on the card was of almost nothing at all. It was out of focus. You couldn't really tell. And she went, "Oh, okay, I know I'm supposed to give up smoking." And I remember looking, she got that from that. But no, her intuition, that was how she finally decided, okay, I will hear what my intuition is telling me. The picture had nothing to do with anything. That's my reassurance that even if we can't understand the dream, if we're open to whatever we're supposed to know, it's going to come one way or another.
I had a little hit on that. What was fascinating, you said it was all fuzzy and all of that. I grew up in an era with smoking in the car, smoking in the elevator, smoking in the doctor's office, the
Airplanes and
thing,
others.
right? Right. I'm thinking of how, as a little child, how fuzzy the air was down there. It wasn't always crystal clear line of sight in a car when you got two parents that
Good
smoke.
point.
I don't know. That was where my mind went when you said it was all fuzzy. I'm like,
Right,
sometimes
hazy. Yeah, good point. But it just tickled me that somewhere her unconscious mind and her intuition was lying in wait for any opportunity to have it, her conscious mind go, okay, I got it. So I take that as reassurance that if we miss it, your intuition is not going to let you misunderstand something and not get your message. The more that you can pay attention, the more that you can quiet the mind and listen, you're going to get it. You will hear it or see it or feel it.
So we've talked about the voices and the feelings and dreams. And I wanted to throw something out because the other day it happened to me and I wasn't really clear. And honestly, I've regretted I didn't act on it. But what is deja vu? I had this weird feeling
Oh,
like I've been here before, but I hadn't been.
yes. Oh, I know just what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly can't really explain it like in sciencey terms, but I think most every one of us has had that experience, and it's so odd. And I think quantum physicists can say there's no such thing as time on a line, like everything is happening simultaneously. And it's almost like a little tear in the space-time continuum that we jump ahead and we're like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen here. I'd love to know more, but I can't shed any more light on it than that.
Because I was fascinated by that, so much so that I made a phone call because it was like it was one of those moments where I went,
Wait a minute.
I was
Yeah.
expecting bad news. I don't know why. So I made a phone call and luckily there was no bad news. So
Wow.
it was just a weird moment. But honestly, even though I'm happy it didn't pan out, I felt relieved. And maybe that's part of that autonomic nervous system part, just wanted to feel a safety thing. I
Yes.
don't know, just check in, make sure everything's good.
And wherever you can breathe, I think that's one of the body's greatest indicator of all is really well. I have time to breathe deeply and fully. Everything likes that. Our bodies like it, our intuition likes it. Like it's quieting. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now we're down to about 7 minutes. I see the lucky 7-11 minutes on. And wanted to just open it up for, we've just gone a whole wide range. I know it wasn't what I laid the groundwork a little bit for Bev, and as usual, we just went down numerous rabbit holes. But what would you like to share with the audience about trusting their intuition, knowing it's intuition, and we can even talk about dreams.
I would say have a fun and productive relationship with your intuition. It's almost like a relationship with a good friend, that how you have a shorthand with a good friend, when you talk often and you're up to date with each other's lives, you could phone and just go, hey, you don't need a whole preamble. We wouldn't ignore a friend for 15 years and then call up and say, hey, what do you think about such and such? What can you give me the answer? Be just incredibly rude and not very productive. So to have a relationship with your intuition is to take time to consider, how am I feeling about this? What do I know? If I knew what it felt to as I walk in this house, what is it that I know? When I sit with a friend, listen, as people often want to be able to hear their intuition, and beef up your hearing, your listening skills with a person right in front of you, so that you're not expecting yourself to listen in between the lines in a deeper plane when just basic listening. So crank up your capacity to listen. You hear between the lines, have a friendly relationship with your intuition, in which your intuition absolutely wants the best for you. She's your inner teacher. So you treat your intuition and your perceptions with respect. It doesn't always matter about, like sometimes people are concerned about always being right. Is my intuition right? I would say when you're developing your relationship with your intuition, a more useful question, is it helpful? Is it helpful? Because accuracy is a different thing, and it puts us in the realm of wrong, good, bad, mistake. Insight, helpfulness softens it in such a way. And then when we remember that we're the boss of us, we're inquiring from our intuition, we're asking it to support us. But the buck stops here with our discernment, what we decide to do. Your intuition can be more freely speaking with you, knowing that you're responsible for what you do with it. So it's a relationship, and it's a wonderful relationship that helps you to get to know yourself more fully, because spoiler alert, that's our one job, to be ourselves. There isn't a dummy's book on how to be you, particularly. There isn't a YouTube on how to be you. Like, you are discovering the you-ness of you, and your intuition is in service of that. So when you become more of you by listening to your intuition, everybody happy.
Mm. One quick final question. Is it a weird habit that I always say thank you to my intuition?
Not at all.
Okay.
That's a friendly relation.
I even actually say it out loud. I'll go, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's a friendly relationship. Exactly.
I've been caught saying it out loud, and people are like, "No."
It's part of that respect that includes you and respecting your perceptions. That sometimes there'll be something you'll think, I'm not sure that anyone else could agree with this, but it's true for me. And so that inner respect. Is there time to talk about a story of someone recently who had a dream that saved their life?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And under the guise of respecting your perceptions, this was a person, it's an actor called Mark Ruffalo, who we all know and love. And I don't suppose he'd call himself particularly intuitive, but apparently, while just before giving birth to their child, he had a dream and in the dream, a quiet, calm voice just said to him, "You have a brain tumor." And he was like, and actually that is weird. So he spoke to someone that he trusted and said, I think I'm going crazy. I had this dream. And the person advised them, well, go and get it checked out. And then you'll know you're crazy and it was just a dream. And he had it checked out by a neurologist. And he did, in fact, have a brain tumor. And they were able to get to it early and take care of things. So I say this in that if he kept saying, I had a crazy dream, instead he said, what can I know about that? Even though he may not ever have been considered himself someone who talks to intuition. I'm so glad he acted on that. And the reason I mentioned that his wife was due, he didn't want to worry her until the baby was born and everything. So he quite privately took care of business. And then, of course, he had to have the surgery a little bit later. But quite a calm, clear dream, just giving him the information that he needed.
Wow, that's amazing. So to be able to sort out all of the different voices in our heads
Yes.
and hear those that come in calm, clear voices. It's interesting you say that because the ones I've had are often that calm, clear voice. To me, it's when I hear that very calm, non-argumentative, non-pejorative, just that calm,
Yeah.
clear voice giving a fact. Somehow I've been trained, as we mentioned, it sounds like coming to that mom voice, sparking my attention to pay attention to it. Oh my goodness. We're just about out of time, Bev. With you, I know we wander everywhere community, and I love that you come on these wandering journeys with us and just explore. Put in the comments here, if you would, some of your insights and moments of intuition. I'd love to read your stories that you have had moments where you heard that calm, clear voice and you went, aha, and acted on it. So Bev, share how everyone could get a hold of you, your website, things like that.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks so much for these. I'm always inspired by you. My website is www.bevmartin.com. And that's the easiest place to find me. And you can, when you're there, sign up for my daily words of wisdom, if you like, or a handout I have, which is a way to ask yourself some questions of your intuition. So when you're wrestling with something, some guidelines about how to listen carefully to your intuition is working perfectly and can be improved.
Absolutely. And Beth has been my dear friend and guide for a long time. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do us a big favor. We're trying to grow the site. Yes, I let it languish for a while, but now with all the advent of easier getting video, guys, I'm not a good video editor when you watch our videos. But I hope they're always inspirational and informational to you. And if you've enjoyed our shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Understanding Autoimmune, and help us grow and get the word out that you are not your diagnosis, that you are much, much more than that, and you're not alone. So join us here at understandingautoimmune.com. Go over and join the Courage Club there as well. Everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures. Thank you so much, Bev, for joining us again.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sharon.
And have a great week. We'll see you next week. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.